desert, for I walk in this world. Good Thursday morning to you. Hope that it's a great day today. Certainly a beautiful day. Not as windy today. That's always a nice treat. And so I hope that so far today has been a blessed day for you. So, have you ever been to the Oval Office? Neither have I, but we've all seen pictures of the Oval Office, different presidents and things, and seen the pictures of its unique and iconic shape and the layout. We've seen it in movies, we've seen it in pictures, of course, we've seen it in recreations located in the different presidential museums and things like that. And maybe some of you have gotten to see it, but the interesting thing is that there are a lot of places in the White House that you cannot go or you cannot walk through without permission. Oval Office happens to be one of those. It's one of the most protected of all the areas in the White House. You can't simply just drop in and walk into the Oval Office and say, hey, to the president. You have to go through a really rigorous screening process, and you have to have an appointment to be able to do that. The same could be said for a king's throne room, in the ancient world. When we read the book of Esther, it reveals that even the queen of Persia herself, who was married to the king, was not free to come in before the king without him holding out his scepter to allow her to be before him. And so that's a concept that's been around for ages and ages. But in Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews in chapter 4, verse 16 tells us that we are allowed to come before the throne of God with confidence. We don't have those restrictions like the kings of old, and as we read in Esther, or even the same restrictions that places like the Oval Office and the White House have. Why? Why is that? How is that possible that we don't have, those kinds of restrictions with God, the Most High King, the King of all kings? I mean, we know our sins, and we know God's holiness. We know God's worthiness. And so how is it that we have this unrestricted access to God? And the answer to that is in the description of God's throne itself. In chapter 4, verse 16 of Hebrews, it says, "Let us approach God's throne of grace." That's the answer right there. It is a throne of grace. It's not a throne of authoritarianism or power. I mean, it is a throne of power, but it's described as a throne of grace, and that's the part of it that allows us to come to Him with confidence. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. God's grace and God's mercy are present at His throne to help us when we're in need, when we have those things that we struggle with, and when we're struggling with our own self-image and self-worth and self-value and things like that. He extends grace to us, and that grace is always present. The whole of chapter 4 focuses on the rest and on the eternal salvation that we receive through Jesus, through His sacrifice and His death, burial, and resurrection. And the end of the chapter then just reminds us of the help that God gives us when we struggle because of the work that Jesus did on the cross. We don't have to stand outside the office door trying to talk our way in. We don't have to make an appointment. We don't have to go through a rigorous screening process. We don't have to timidly force ourselves to walk into a throne room hoping that the scepter is extended to us as a welcome. We can just walk before God, the throne of grace, with confidence through prayer, not in ourselves, but in His grace. And boy, what a comforting thought that is. What an amazing thought that is, that our God allows us to come into His presence that way with confidence that He is going to listen, that He is going to answer our prayers in the way He sees best, and most of all, that He's going to extend grace And so as we reflect on that and think about that, we can also reflect on a verse from the song "And Can It Be." I don't know if you've heard that song. You might look it up on YouTube. "And Can It Be?" And the line says this: "Boldly I come before your throne to claim your mercy, immense and free. No greater love will e'er be known, for, oh my God, it found out me." And so let us boldly come before God. Let us go before God, before his throne of grace with confidence, so that we can receive mercy and we can find the grace that we need when we struggle and when we need help and when we need we need guidance from God. And we do. Every day we need guidance from God. But just know that you are allowed to go before the throne of grace and be in the presence of God without restriction, without a screening process, but completely free to be in his presence. What a great thought. Hope this encourages you today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. They resound with God's own heart. Oh, let the ancient words impart, words of life, words of hope.